Hey guys, what's going on? This is Noah from Project Spaghetti Wall. Coming up next, I have an interview with my buddy Darren Darnborough. This is the first of a series of interviews with people I look up to and admire, and I ask them the questions that I want to ask. How do you stay inspired? How do you stay motivated? And how do you stay positive? All right, and with that, let's get started with the interview. All right, welcome to the show. Today, I am super thrilled to have my good friend Darren Darnborough. He's an actor, entrepreneur. And he's just somebody that I've been looking up to for quite a while. He's
Likewise.
just really inspired by a lot of stuff you have going on.
Thank you.
So Darren, for those of us who don't know you, which is probably not very many people,
No, probably everyone.
tell everyone a little bit about your background, who you are, and
Okay, so as Noah says, my name's Darren Darnborough. I'm from Britain, hence the accent. And I moved to Los Angeles 10 years ago, just over 10 years ago actually, from London, where I grew up, went to university, studied film and television, and I became an actor at a pretty young age, like professionally around 16. And I guess because I probably didn't want to ever have the side job that actors are usually laden with, I started doing a lot of business endeavors, which was, it kind of began with doing jobs that I didn't really have a long contract on, so I never had that set job. I used to work for different people at different times and like that lifestyle. And then because of that, I had a lot of friends that were also entrepreneurs and business owners, which I looked up to. So I started to create and run businesses, had a few different ones that had various levels of success or interest. And then, as with any entrepreneur, you find the idea that works and you stick with it a little bit longer. That idea was an events company where I used to run parties and events. And then I started to run a website business, which we created for recruitment for the sort of people that work at those events. And then I moved to LA, to Hollywood, to pursue the film and acting a little more and to have a bit of a change of lifestyle, because it's quite nice here. Usually it's sunny.
yeah, usually.
But yeah, then I got involved in film and TV here, which again is like, it's a bit like starting anew, because you come to a new place, you have to re-establish yourself. And most recently I started a business called We Rehearse with a couple of partners, which is a video chat website for actors to rehearse and audition through video technology, live. So that's where we're at, kind of takes up to today.
What are some of the shows you've been on for your acting career, though?
In America, the ones you'll know here, I've been on True Blood. I was in the Roots remake last year, which was really cool. I've done Two Broke Girls. Just did a show called Law for Amazon, which is a sort of horror anthology based on the podcast of the same name.
Oh, that's cool. You just had one pop out at the Shorts Festival last night.
We were just at Dances with Films.
Yeah.
That was a TV pilot we made called Cleaners. I play a British gangster on the run.
That's very close to real life.
Well, yeah, some of it is apart from the gangster bit.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
Speaking on that note, tell us a little bit about your sort of creative process. When are you at your finest? What does that look like when you're really in the flow, in the zone, and you're making stuff happen?
Okay, a lot of people, they seem to say that a certain time of day suits them best. For us, that can be, as creative people and with no set 9 to 5, that could be any different time of day, I find, depending on what you've got going on at the time. For me, my creative process isn't about a time of day or a time of year. It's when I've got momentum, I think. That's when, it's almost like when I'm busy, I achieve more because I'm busy and I have to achieve more. And I think that having that deadline mentality, when you're forced to do something, you get so much done. When your mind is able to just sit there and decide, oh, what shall I do today? I often find you get one thing done or one major task because you're dwelling on the idea of what you should do so much. Whereas when you're in flow, when you actually have a lot going on, you just make decisions and you get on with it and you move on to the next thing.
Sometimes, though, we don't have that momentum. Do you have a sort of a trick that you do when you encounter a little personal resistance?
For me, it's just all about keeping motivated, reminding myself that something really great is around the corner. Because my life is a bit like that. I'll have really great business deals happen and then nothing for a while. Same with TV and film. You'll hit one audition and it'll be great and you'll feel on top of the world, and then you get nothing else for 3 months. Yeah. So it's one of those professions, whether it's being an entrepreneur or an actor and a film producer, you put a hell of a lot of time in for a big win.
Yeah.
And although things grow every day, and we know as both creative people and business people, that every bit of effort you put in is actually building. It's sometimes hard to see that. It's sometimes hard to think, well, if I didn't get that acting job, or that production deal didn't go through, or that business didn't, manifest itself in the way I intended, am I actually moving forward? We know in our heart of hearts we are. We know that each thing is making us stronger, like each rep in the gym makes the muscle a little bit stronger. But it's hard to see that. So when I'm having a period like that where it's a bit slower, or I'm waiting on something for someone else. So I've done my bit of the equation, and I'm eager to get on with the next bit, whether it be writing a script with a partner or somebody else having their delegated part of the business equation. I get in a zone where, well, what can I do with that? And so at that point, I tend to consume podcasts, learning, books. Mm-hmm. I always make sure I wake up early. Doesn't matter what I have on the day. I'm up at 6, 7 o'clock every day.
Or how many cocktails you had the night before.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. That's one of my strengths, I think, is I can discipline myself to waking up and getting on something, even if I'm not sure what it is I should be getting on. Because I think the real bad thing you can do is to think, well, I don't know what I'm doing today, so I'll just chill out.
That's one of the hardest things for me, is that looking into the abyss and to sort of not know exactly what is on the agenda for that day, and then like to try to force myself to move when I don't know which direction I'm going.
Yeah, and sometimes, I have the same issue. I've been going through a bit of it recently, really, because I'm waking up thinking, well, I've got 5 or 6 things that I could work on, 5 or 6 things that I want to work on, and I'm not really sure which one should get my attention. And like I say, in that instance, I turn to things like interviews like this. I turn to podcasts, motivational stuff. I read books. I get ideas from wherever I am. I'll always hit the gym. I'll always meet up with somebody, get a bit of inspiration from someone, because there's always a little tip you can take from somebody. To be more specific, there's a few good podcasts for this kind of thing. John Lee Dumas, that does Entrepreneurial Fire, is always very inspiring. A friend of mine, James Swanwick, does the James Swanwick Show. He talks about health, wealth, love, and happiness.
We met James.
Yeah,
James,
exactly. As does Ty Lopez.
Right.
And I think whether you know to get up to write 2 pages of a novel each day, it's doing something. You've got to pinpoint, what can I do to progress today? And if you're an actor or a film producer, it might be sitting watching a TV show. Yeah. But watch it. Don't faff with it on in the background while you potter around doing something else. If you've decided that you need to be more up on TV shows, and I'm saying this because for me, this year I've watched more television and film than I ever have, and I now get up and read the trades every day, and I had to. I did know what was going on in the industry, but then a few friends surprised me. They'd mentioned names, and I'm like, who's that?
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes it'd be somebody very, current or influential that I think that I should know. Yeah. And that's the kind of thing I sit back and go, oh, that's not cool. If I'm in this business, I should know the players.
This is true. I'm the other side of the coin, though. I'm like intentionally avoiding content consumption lately. I know I'll get addicted. If I start watching Game of Thrones, forget it. I'm not gonna get any work done for 3 days.
I think this is it. Yeah. It's all about discipline, isn't it?
Exactly.
Is it specific watching, and is it disciplined?
Exactly.
And to speak to that, like when I wake up and read Deadline Hollywood and Variety and The Hollywood Reporter, I set myself a time period where I flick through those articles and eat my breakfast, and that's what I've been doing every day. It's new. I don't know, but I feel more knowledgeable about it when I have business meetings now. I can put these things together and actually give some value back to the meeting, because I know who's doing what and what's happening and how it intersects with my career and my environment of what I'm trying to appeal to.
Talk about a big opportunity that you've had in your life, and what sort of effort you had to put in to make that thing come to life.
I find that all of the sort of things that I consider successful, whether you talk about business or my relationship with my fiance or any of those things, how I met her, it all feeds in from doing things specifically that lead you to a point in time. For instance, I met my fiance at Comic-Con. We only went to Comic-Con because we were making a web series, and the publicist we were working with said, somebody wants to interview you at Comic-Con, do you want to go? Now, I could have easily said, no, it's 2 hours away, I can't be bothered, I don't want to spend the gas money. But I looked it up, I thought that looks fun, we'll go. Got the 2 friends together, we went down there and on an impulse and made it happen. And I met some of the best friends I have in my life now, and my fiance that night.
Yeah.
So you can always relate it back to some sort of decision that you made or didn't make. I mean, I'll take you back to in 2002 when I started my first web business, Stuck for Staff. That's an interesting catalyst because we're about to sell the company now, 16 years later. 15 years later. And that was started within a day because of an idea. Me and my partner were on a job doing some promotional work, handing out free samples at a supermarket car park in a bad seaside town. And we've been let down by some of the local staff that were supposed to work with us. I'm sure they had some sort of hangover.
Wasn't it raining or something too?
It was probably raining. It wasn't a perfect day, and me and my partner had been let down by these staff, and I just was tired of picking up other people's work because this happened frequently. And here's when a business you create solves a problem. I sat there and thought, what is the solution to this problem? Why is the agency that's employing me not able to send 2-3 more people instantly? And so I reverse engineered it in my head. I thought, why can't they do it? It's because they're at home, it's the weekend, it's Sunday. What does that mean? They don't have access to their database, which is in the office, which they work at Monday to Friday, 9 to 5.
Right.
What if they had access to their database on their home computer? Well, it still wouldn't matter because they didn't want to spend their Sunday calling 100 people to see if they wanted to work. So I thought, well, what if I showed them who wants to work today, right now, in real time? Would they call the first person knowing that the first person would answer and do the job?
Yeah.
And so I spoke to my partner. I briefly ran him through this idea. If there was a website where you could list yourself for work like this for today, would you pay £10 a year for it? And he said, yes, I would. Is there one? I said, no, let's create it. And
That's awesome.
we spoke about it all day, and we had I think about 2.5 hour drive back, and we spoke about it all the way home. And I didn't go home that night till like 4 or 5 in the morning. We boiled a pot of tea, as Brits do, stuck some toast in the toaster, some bread in the toaster, and we sat there and we fleshed out the business plan and the name of the company, everything that night. And I think we met 2 days later in a pub to plan it out properly. Everything happens in a pub in Britain, especially when you don't have an office.
Yeah.
And within 6 weeks, I think, we'd launched the website. We found someone to code it. We'd done all that work, put it together, put some money in, got the legals done, and done it. Now, years later, it's changed many times over that point. We've had to reinvest lots of money and whatever, but we started it. We literally thought of it that day and started it that week. And I think sometimes you can dwell on things way too long. You don't put the first step into action.
It takes a lot of guts to put that first
Or
step.
stupidity.
Or stupidity, or just sheer passion sometimes. I think there's, a lot of variables that have to go into, do you have the guts to take that step?
And going back to what we were talking about earlier with having a lot on your plate and getting more done.
Yeah.
Both myself and my business partner were both buying our first house that week as well.
Oh, wow.
So we had a lot on our plate. We were working away from home,
Yeah.
buying a property,
Yeah.
and we still started a business. Now I think back, I wouldn't do those things all at once anymore. But I think sometimes that excitement spurs you on when you're compelled where you can't not do it.
A lot of us tend to live our lives with our head in the sand, not really paying attention to the deep questions in life sometimes, like things like, why are we here? What's the meaning behind all this? Can we take a minute to just kind of dive in deep and ask you, what do you think a life worth living means?
A life worth living generally, I think, is life, because life is amazing and has so many facets that, just in itself, life is worth living. In terms of purpose, I'm not sure I've still found mine. I constantly am at war with that, wondering if what I'm doing is worthwhile enough, if it affects people enough, if it helps the world enough, all those things. Sometimes I look at the businesses I create or have created and think it serves such a small market of people or such a small niche that is that really what I should be doing? As an actor and a filmmaker, I watch films about things like, I think about the last one that had this feeling was a film called Patriots Day,
which is about the Boston Marathon bombings.
Oh, wow.
And it was such a good, well-acted story, and that's when I find a good film takes me somewhere, where I sat there and thought, as an actor, as a producer, as any of these things, I'm not serving the world like these people are, these firemen, these police officers, they're doing real stuff. They go to real jobs and do real stuff, and it actually gives me anxiety for that moment, thinking, I'm enjoying these actors' work on the screens, but not as much as I'm appreciating the real people they're portraying, even if it's fiction.
Yeah.
They're still portraying something that somebody else does every day that, in my mind, is absolutely incredible. And it doesn't have to be like a hero.
Yeah.
It can be the normal person that I sometimes drive down the road and think, somebody built this road, or a group of people built this road. Isn't a road amazing?
Yeah.
Like the way it allows us to get from one place to the other. And it's absurd. And I bring myself back and I'm like, well, we just drive down these things every day and we don't even think about it. And I sort of, again, think back in my head, well, where would you start if you were building a road? And think about all the engineers and the architects and all the plans. And I just get amazed by these people. And that to me is purpose.
Right.
Now, if you're struggling to find a purpose, it doesn't have to be some big grand gesture. You need to think about your impact on the world. And I think with a lot of creative people, a lot of entrepreneurs, they're constantly at battle with, well, is this my thing? Is this my passion? There's a very good TED Talk, I think it is. It might be on Oprah Winfrey's network, with the author of Eat, Pray, Love. And she talks about being a hummingbird.
Oh, yeah.
If you're struggling with your idea for purpose, or what you should be doing, or what your passion is that you should get up and do every day no matter what, watch that hummingbird speech, because it allows you to realize that you might be there to actually infiltrate several different things, and you are the person that takes the ideas around and disseminates them, which is what I think I sometimes am.
Real quick, let's just start wrapping up here. What's a recent life lesson you've learned that you wish you could have known earlier?
A life lesson. Oh, I can think of a career lesson.
Great.
My fiancée, Mary Tran, she's an actress and model and has just recently started in this business. And from the day that she decided that she actually liked that profession and wanted to go for it, she's been very conscientious, very organized, very methodical, and very, very like super professional about everything she's done. I've been doing this business since I was 16, and just watching her year and a half of doing this, the choices she's made, the things she's done, the way she's taken advice from people doing better than herself, better than me, all of these people around, and applied that. I'm constantly, every day now, thinking, wow, I'm learning something from you, of something that I've done for 20 years, because I've got complacent. I've got not cocky, but you just get this level of comfort about you, and you start to forget all these little things that you could be doing way better.
For sure.
And so that's a life lesson I'm learning, is that don't ever underestimate what you can do, and you should always look at people that are doing what you want to do and try and emulate them. Mm-hmm. Because when I started, I didn't really have the resources we have now. I didn't have podcasts, or there was one newspaper on the business, that kind of thing. But what I could have done is really studied people, even if I didn't know them, that have achieved what I wanted to achieve, and see what their habits are, see where they go.
Excellent, excellent. So how do we stay in the loop with you and some of your upcoming projects?
You can go to werehearse.com to have a look at that website, stuckforstaff.com for that business in American, stuck for staff. No one can understand that. Staff.
Yeah.
Isn't it the thing that you like hit people with, the staff?
Staff, yeah. It's also people that work for you.
Yeah.
And I'm on all the social medias. My name is spelled out, Darren Darnborough, and you can find me on those. I'm not very good on all the social medias, but I'm there.
Yeah.
It exists, but I don't know if it's interesting.
Awesome, fantastic. Darren, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time out to be here.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
And thank you guys. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll have more coming at you very soon.